Hey everyone, this is John with 1732 Streaming's Freedom Circuit. You can follow us on Rumble and YouTube at 1732 Streaming. We put some content on Twitch, JK1732A, and now on Facebook. If you happen to be on Facebook and you see this, do me a favor, hit that like button and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. Helps me know that there's some engagement. I also do there are people throwing some comments on there. And also throw some thumbs up and comments on Rumble and YouTube if you guys don't mind. It helps with engagement, and I really do appreciate it. We're going to go over a couple things today. We're going to go over, and by the way, circuit breakers, that came from CP, so that is everyone's nickname now. We are circuit breakers here on the Freedom Circuit. Let me know what you think about that. Drop a comment on there if you don't mind. Let me know if you think that's appropriate. I like it a whole lot, so let's go ahead and go on and get this show started here today. So today we're going to be covering a couple of things. So we're going to spend some time on the government shutdown, and we'll go over that. And then we're also going to go over SNAP benefits. We're going to go over that too as well, specifically what's happening here in Virginia. And then we're also going to go over the console wars, Xbox versus PlayStation. Got some news on that. I think it's quite funny. And even the White House is weighing in on the console wars. So I think that's pretty important. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's go ahead and go to the government shutdown. So question for you guys. Does this shutdown, the long-term effects, do you think that the midterms are going to be affected? And what I mean by that is, do you think this is going to help the Democrats? Do you think this is going to help the GOP? What do you guys think? Who's going to benefit from this? If anybody, drop some comments if you don't mind. And I'd like to know what you guys think. So I'll give you my opinion. I think this is going to hurt the Democrats in the midterms. And I'll show you why. So I'll show you some video clips and why I think that it's going to not help them. So speaking of, let's go ahead and look at one of these video clips here real quick. So let's check this out. Let's do this one here. So let's listen.
I think, given that the Republicans are in charge of both the House and the Senate, that a government shutdown might actually hurt the Republican brand. But in fact, it hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Let's take a look here. The shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5.
Okay, so CNN, not really a bastion of conservatism, is showing polls that the GOP is actually, showing favoritism during the government shutdown. So that's interesting for CNN to admit that. It might be worse for the Democrats than we thought. I think this is going to hurt the Democrats quite a bit, actually, because at the end of the day, all but one Republican are voting to keep the government open right now, and all but just a few, I think it's 5 Democrats, are voting to keep the government shut down. And it's just because they want illegals to have health care and, trans surgery and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think they have a leg to stand on right now, the Democrats. So let's look at the next clip. How are the Democrats doing with the shutdown? Let's check that out. Let's see what that shows right now. So this is also from CNN.
How are they positioned right now?
Yeah, so, look, the generic congressional ballot, which traditionally Democrats have done really well on, and if you look at this point back when Trump was president the first time around, Democrats were up 11 points. Look at where it is now. Democrats are ahead, but they're actually only up 3 points. This is, in fact, the worst position Democrats have been on in a generic ballot at this point in midterm when there was a Republican president in the last 20 years, and this is
Obviously, you can see I use my phone for screen recording. So, yeah, I'm a one-man show, man. I don't really have some nice technology. But while it shows them ahead, it shows them only ahead by 3 points in the generic poll. So what that would indicate that even their base isn't supporting them with this government shutdown right now. We on the last podcast, we showed the pilots unions. A lot of them were showing or urging the Democrats to vote for the CR resolution to open the government back up because of, the downstream effects from having the government shut down for the airlines. Like I said before, unions aren't necessarily known for being conservative or supporting the GOP's policies. So, that's kind of interesting. So, guys, I don't know that this is going to go well in the midterms. I think this is going to have an effect on the Democrat Party, and I don't think it's a good one. I think it's going to be a good thing for the Republican Party, but we just as conservatives need to make sure that we hold the Republicans accountable. So, we got some rhinos in there that we don't necessarily agree with, so we need to hold them accountable as well. But yeah, so that's what I got there. And, are people starting to see that the Democrats are responsible for the government shutdown? I think is the longer this goes on, the more people are starting to go back and actually do their own research. When you have like a 1-day media cycle or something like that, people forget about it and they believe the parroting points that come from the major news outlets saying the Republicans are responsible, blah, blah, blah. But as time drags on, they start to see that it's the Democrats that are voting to keep the government shut down. So the longer this drags on, I think the more it's going to hurt them in the midterms and have downstream effects for their party as time goes on, maybe even all the way to the presidential race in 2028. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Drop some comments in there if you don't mind. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is good or bad for them? At the end of the day, I just, I think it's the American people do not want to give free health care to illegals. I believe that the majority of Americans. I know that there's some strong leftists out there that want to give free health care for all, and that's just not sustainable. But I think the majority of America does not want their tax dollars going to people that don't belong here in the first place, that didn't come in legally through the front door. So yeah, I think this is going to hurt them quite a bit, and I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. This is a discussion platform. I want to hear from you guys. So let's move on to the next thing here. So in Virginia, I mentioned it in the last podcast, we have VINA going active on November 3rd if the government doesn't reopen on November 1st. VINA is going to help people with SNAP benefits and make sure that they receive those benefits through the state of Virginia versus the federal government. And there's a couple of differences. They will receive it. They will receive their benefits weekly instead of monthly. Now, I assume they're doing that, hoping that the government will open up at some point and start giving those benefits back. So that would be my assumption. I could be wrong. So let's go ahead and take a look here. I have a clip of Virginia's governor, Glenn Youngkin, voicing his frustration on the government shutdown. So let's take a look at that here real quick.
And the best of us is to step in when the federal government and Senate Democrats fail to do their job.
Governor Glenn Youngkin visibly frustrated as the government remains shut down, leaving thousands of Virginia SNAP beneficiaries in limbo. As a result, he announced a Virginia Emergency Nutrition Assistance, or VINA, which will provide food relief to everyone who relied on SNAP in October.
This is not easy. We are creating a parallel food assistance program or system that in fact is going to step in where the federal government is not able to because the Democrats are keeping it shut.
So there you go, Virginia's governor voicing his frustration with the Democrats. And in Virginia, we have 2 Democrat senators. He's also voiced a lot of frustration with them through social media on Facebook and X and stuff like that. So you can go through and take a look at that. So yeah, one of the things that I found pretty interesting actually is, I'm glad that Virginia's stepping in and going to take care of its citizens. But, I wonder, 850,000 Virginians are on SNAP. That is a lot. That is a lot. Now, in my last podcast, I questioned, is that an abuse of the system? I think there is some abuse. And I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he brought up a good point. Are these people, so not only are there abuses of the system, but were these people put there, or were they kind of herded that direction by the left through policies over time to make them reliant on the government? That's a good point. I didn't even think about that because, the government gives you free SNAP benefits, so you become reliable on the government for your food, essentially. And there's all those social programs. If you're on SNAP, you might be a part of other social programs as well, which means you have a heavy reliance on the government. And, this is an example of where being too reliant on the government is not a good thing. Government shuts down, you don't get your food. Government shuts down, do you get your health care that you get through the government and stuff like that? So, do you think that this was a long-term plan over time for the Democrats to make people reliant on the government? That's actually a good point. So, these people are literally voting themselves into being reliant on the government, whether they know it or not. It could be a subconscious thing, obviously. Everybody wants free stuff at the end of the day. So I think that speaks to the long-term plan of the Democrats over time, making people reliant on government. And you could say the same thing about mass transit and stuff like that. City buses and stuff like making people public transportation, making people reliant on public transportation. Making people basically live in the cities where they can't get outside of the cities and stuff like that. By having car tax and all that good stuff. So, that was something that I didn't really consider until my friend brought that up. So that's definitely something to think about. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think it's just a mass, drop some comments, do you think it's just a mass abuse of the system? These people are just lazy? Or do you think that they, just kind of got herded into being reliant on the government, whether they knew it or not, just because of policies over time from the left? Do you think that this was a greater scheme by the left to make them reliant on the government? What do you guys think? Let me know. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. So yeah, what do you guys think right now? I saw a news article drop, and I didn't prepare for this, so I apologize. But if you go back and look on any social media platform, you will see it right now. Donald Trump has stated that nuclear testing is to begin immediately, again in the United States, and it's to mimic testing with everybody else. So basically, because I know Russia still tests nuclear bombs. So basically what he's saying is if Russia tests nuclear bombs, we need to test nuclear bombs. If China tests nuclear bombs, we need to test nuclear bombs. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's a bad thing? Because we haven't been testing nuclear bombs in a long time. As far as I think actual detonations, and you guys, if you know of any or something like that, let me know. But yeah, I mean, I know we test guidance systems, I know we test missiles and stuff like that, but I don't think we actually test the nuclear payloads anymore. Donald Trump is saying we need to start testing the nuclear payloads again. Now, to me, what that says is that we are signaling to others, whether, possible enemies of the United States, hey, we still have these things. You're testing nuclear bombs. We're going to test our nuclear bombs just to let you know that, we're still here and we're still a player in the game. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's what's happening? I think it's a flex for sure, on the United States. He even put in one of his tweets that the United States still has the largest contingent of nuclear weapons on the planet. And, they're the most sophisticated that have ever existed, and stuff like that. So I mean, obviously it's a flex to our enemies saying, hey, do you really want to go down that route? Do you want to mess with us? I mean, because we have the ability to wipe you out. Sure, you have the ability to wipe us out too, but do you want to go down that route? So what do you guys think? Drop some comments on that. I would appreciate some feedback from you guys. And also in news, President Trump was going all over Asia. As you saw, he met with I think that is a prime minister, the new leader of the first female leader of Japan. She's very conservative, my understanding. Now, I believe the Japanese have a different view on life than we do. Mainly the Second Amendment is one of the big things that, they don't have the Second Amendment. They're not really big into guns. Which is fine, but they are showing to be a good partner. And I was watching Louder with Crowder yesterday, and they think that Japan is probably our greatest ally at this point. What do you guys think? I can see that. I can see where they're our biggest ally right now. They seem to be okay with us wanting to protect our way of life, and we're okay with them protecting their way of life. And whether we have some disagreements or not, it looks like we're pretty big allies. So what do you guys think about that? They also, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he visited South Korea, but I know that he has agreed to share some of our nuclear submarine technology with South Korea so they could build a nuclear submarine. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal because nuclear submarine technology is like, if not the one of the biggest secrets held by the United States. We have the best nuclear submarines on the planet, bar none. Nobody else even comes close. They're the quietest, they're the most effective, longest range, all that good stuff. I think the next closest would be Russia, obviously, and then maybe China or something like that, but they don't even come close. So as far as our technology goes, so I think that's a big deal. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. South Korea has been our ally for a very long time, so I guess I don't really have a huge problem with that. And I'm sure that when we share the technology, there's some things we're not going to share. At the end of the day, we're going to give them enough to be, better than their enemies, our enemies. But I don't think we're going to give them enough to where they could potentially go against us. Now, granted, one nuclear submarine's not really going to be, I don't think it's going to be that dangerous as far as us having, we have way more nuclear submarines. We have way more than one. I don't know how many it is, but, we have the largest Navy on the planet as far as combat ships go. We have the largest Air Force. We have the second largest Air Force. Fun fact, you can go look that up. The United States Navy has the second largest Air Force on the planet. So we have number one and number two. And we have the most aircraft carriers, which are huge in warfare. So I'm not that worried about sharing some secrets with our allies as far as making them a little bit better, and that makes them better allies. What do you guys think about that? Drop some comments on that. I thought that was actually a pretty interesting gesture on our part, to South Korea. So yeah. All right. So let's move into the final thing here, guys. All right. So I'm a gamer. Obviously, I put some gaming streams on here. And I have had an Xbox and a PlayStation. So we're getting out of politics a little bit. This is a little bit of entertainment here. I've had both. Right now, I have an Xbox, whatever. I can't remember what the latest one is, but I have it. And, there's always been a friendly war between PlayStation and Xbox on who has the better console. And you have fans on both sides, right? There are diehard PlayStation fans and there are diehard Xbox fans, man. They are just, it is what it is. They are just committed to that console for the most part. This one has better graphics, this one has better controllers, whatever. And one of the things that came out recently is that the latest rendition of Halo that's going to come out, which I am a huge Halo fan. I play a ton of Halo. I've been playing it for years. I love it. They are actually going to, and I think it's a remake of Halo. Oh, gosh, I can't remember. It's one of the original Halo games. It's not the first one, but it's the second one where you first get Master Chief. They're like redoing graphics, and all that good stuff with it, and they're going to drop it again. It's going to be available on PlayStation. That's a big deal. And the reason that's a big deal is because these consoles have had exclusive games to their consoles, and Halo was like the exclusive game for Xbox. Always has been. Like, you can only get on Xbox and on Windows PC, right? Because Windows owns Xbox. So yeah, that's a big deal as far as game consoles are concerned. Now, that being said, GameStop released a note saying that they are declaring the console wars over because of this. Let me show you what they said here, and then this is actually pretty funny, I think. And the president actually weighed in. So let's pull this up here real quick. Here we go. All right. So from GameStop declares the console wars are over. All right, GameStop. All right, now the rapid response. If you don't follow this on X, I actually highly recommend it. This is something that they set up, the White House, where they put up active tweets and they try to get ahead of any false rumors and stuff like that, and just general information. It comes across Rapid Response 47 on X. So that's from the White House team, the current administration. President Trump presides over the end of the 20-year console wars. So there you go, guys. The president has presided over another war that no longer exists, and it is the console wars. So I thought that was funny. I think that really shows that the president and his team are engaged with everyday life. Obviously, they're having fun with that post. That's not a serious thing. He's not the one that negotiated it, I'm sure. It's just obviously it's all a joke. But I think that shows that he's really he and they are really engaged in everyday life, and just weighing in on everyday everyday Americans and stuff like that. So, but that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. You can follow us on YouTube and Rumble at 1732 Streaming. You can follow us on Twitch, JK1732A. And of course, I will also drop this on Facebook as well on my profile. Do me a favor, if you don't mind, drop some comments and subscribe. Subscribe on whatever platform. I prefer Rumble, but if you happen to be on YouTube or on Facebook, subscribe, like, follow. I really would appreciate it. And then, of course, if you don't mind, drop some comments. I've actually gotten some comments today on my Facebook that I've been responding. So that's going to be another way that I can engage with you guys, get some ideas for the show, and just engage. So drop some comments. If you go to my Facebook, drop some comments there. I'm cool with it, man. I really would appreciate it. So keep your head on a swivel, guys. Stay safe, and I'll catch you later. Peace.